Hello everybody and welcome to the next installment in the KIO series. And so now is a good time to answer some viewer questions. And I thought that there would be some questions that pop up. And just so you know, I want this to be interactive, and so I'm going to give you my email address. Again, it's killabecenter@gmail.com. That's the way to reach me if you need private sessions, if you want to be involved in facilitator training and want to understand more about that. It's also a good place to reach me or the Killaby Center if you're in a crisis situation. You can also go to killabecenter.com. That's where our treatment centers are located for more information on that. But you can also contact me directly at killabecenter@gmail.com for a number of reasons. Again, to ask a question that you see that pops up for you as you're watching these videos, but also if you need sessions or you're interested in training, you can reach me that way. And then again, you can reach me at that email address if you're in a crisis situation where you really need a higher level of care, meaning you're involved in an addiction which is making life very unmanageable and you're having trouble dealing with that on your own, or suicidal ideation, or extreme depression, anxiety. Any of those situations where you just need more care and support, we have those treatment centers available for you, where we do this work with you every day. And even people who need detox, that's a thing to remember. It's like we have a detox center, which is very unique. We certainly use medicine and other things for the physical detoxing, but at the same time, we're using this method with you. And so it's a very unique treatment center in the sense this is the only one in the world. These centers are the only one in the world where we do this work, or where this work is done in this form. So lots of resources for you. But some people have been using that email address again to ask me questions. So I'm just going to read a few questions here. Sometimes I'll paraphrase the question if it's long. I do ask that if you send me an email, to keep it short. Long, lengthy emails are hard for me. I get a lot of emails, and they're hard for me to just respond to all the details of long emails, but you can keep simple questions are good, and there are a few here that have simple questions. Scott, I find it hard just to rest and witness my thoughts, or even to be in the body, especially throughout the course of a day. Can you help me with this? Yeah, I think I've already explained it in the videos. When I talked about tapping and tracking and focus shifting, those are really good when you're feeling overwhelmed. We call those tier 2 tools, meaning they're really reserved for those situations in which you're feeling overwhelmed with your thoughts or your feelings, or you're triggered or something. Just go back and refer to those particular videos that contain the simple inquiry, tracking, focus shifting, clearing method. Those tools are especially good if you're feeling overwhelmed and you're having difficulty witnessing things or resting as awareness. So again, maybe you just forgot that, or you were watching the series and didn't make the connection that those are good tools to use when you can't witness. And we call them tier 2 tools simply because we prefer tier 1. In other words, with this way of working with our experience, tier 1 tools are just when we're resting from awareness and just noticing thoughts, seeing them, allowing them to come to rest just in awareness, and then coming down into the body and feeling and allowing without the use of any tapping or tracking or focus shifting or hands. See, that's tier 1. But this emailer is simply saying, I can't use the tier 1 tools because I'm feeling too overwhelmed. Again, that's why we have the tier 2 tools. So go back and check those out, and that'll probably help a lot. Some of these questions are somewhat personal to me, so I'll just very briefly answer them. Scott, do you still get triggered? If so, when or how often, and what do you do when you're triggered? Yes, every now and then I get triggered, much less than before. Mostly my days are just sort of spent in presence. Thoughts and feelings and sensations certainly arise. They do for everyone, no matter what degree of awakeness has been realized. What I found with this work is that as you rest and inquire, over time, you just get triggered less. And for me, the triggers are more short-lived. So it could just be like a state comes up, um, a little worry here, or a little story there. It just takes me over for a very short time, and then I just turn and look at it and use these skills, and then it just seems to fall away. I will tell you this, when I first got into my current relationship, when we were first getting to know each other, I happened to be going on 3 years with my partner, Chester, who's the love of my life. It's like the universe brought us together to kind of be a teacher for each other, and it helped wake me up more, because there were a few arguments that we had in the beginning of our relationship. Just miscommunications, old feelings of jealousy came up. These tools were super helpful. We did these tools together. Chester, my partner, is very much interested in this work, and does a lot of looking on his own, and we both do. But during those early arguments, when we could not talk to each other because talking just wasn't going anywhere, we would do mutual inquiry with each other. And there's a beautiful unfolding that happened for us, because now we just really do not argue or fight. We've come to a place of clarity with each other, and so much intimacy has been revealed just from doing this work. And I want to talk more about that later, in terms of how this work is so helpful in relationships of all kinds that you have with people close to you. So yeah, I get triggered, yeah. Not very much. But when it happens, I know how to look. That's the key. That's the difference. And I'm teaching you how to look too. Scott, for me, spirituality is about finding joy and love and peace. And do you find that to be the real benefit, or the end game? I can't really read what they mean by end game, for this kind of spiritual path. I just paraphrased that. That was a long question. Of course, joy and peace and bliss and good feelings and sensations arise when we're unhooking from painful suffering, right? It's natural, for example, for someone that I'm working with, someone to be in a high state of anger, and then through this tool, as they rest with things, that anger transmits itself into sometimes a pleasant feeling or a blissful feeling. Or I'm working with somebody on a body contraction, and by working with it skillfully on the somatic level, which I'm going to teach you, that contraction can open up and energy can flow out of that, and that energy can feel very nice and warm and fuzzy. Or one can have a spiritual experience where they see through a bunch of stories, or see through that sense of self, and there's a sense of love that arises. The thing is that to me, spirituality cannot be about those, because those are all still temporary states. Yes, there's a feeling of, you could say, bliss, peace, love that is inherent in this, in the sense that it's so accessible to us, but you have to be careful, because it's not always there. Like, there are times when I feel very blissful and very peaceful and very, just a lot of like love for no reason. But then in the next moment, I might be washing the dishes and just focused on washing dishes. No, there's no peace, love, bliss. There's just washing dishes, or taking out the trash, or maybe working on something on the computer, or just sitting here and there's nothing is felt. It's just awareness, aware of the present moment. And I think that's a healthier view, is just to notice that this is really about clarity. It's about really settling into being present in your life, no matter what arises. Sometimes what arises are pleasurable states and feelings, but if you notice, for the most part, they're not always there. They may be there a lot of the time, but they're not always there. And if you make this about trying to hold on to peace or bliss or good feelings, you're going to be let down, because all that stuff, a lot of it happens in the world of duality. And so in the next moment, you might feel something else, or not feel nothing at all. But just notice that there's an awareness or a presence that remains throughout all of those states. And I think that's the key, is to rest and to allow all states and all feelings, all sensation, all thoughts come and go freely in awareness. I think there's a greater depth of understanding and realization that happens through that than by chasing these states like a drug addict. Like, oh, I need to get my joy and hold on to my joy. Oh, I've lost my joy. I got to get my joy. I got to find it. That's a game I'm not interested in. It's a game of seeking, just like when I was on drugs, just seeking the next high. So yeah, you can chase that all you want, but what I've found, it just keeps you on the hamster wheel of looking for good feelings and not wanting bad feelings. And in a sense, it often can involve trying to avoid negative states. And any kind of avoidance or bypassing can be very problematic, because it sets up more seeking, and it's just avoidance, period. So that's how I'd answer that one. Scott, have you been able to use this work to help with your spine condition? And if so, how has that worked for you? Without this work, I don't even know that I would even be helping people or in the public eye anymore, because the spine condition that I had was and has been at times very debilitating. Not every day, but certainly, and it's gotten better, so much better from this work. And I'm going to teach you why and how that came about for me. Using rest and inquiry, I was able to relate to my spine energy, spine pain differently. I still have flare-ups where on a certain day there's a lot of nerve energy in my experience. But again, resting with that is important. And just doing good somatic work, skillful somatic work, releases the tension and the resistance around that injury in my body. And then of course the inquiry also helps to unhook from any stories that might be happening in my mind, that keep me fixated with that. So it's been absolutely indispensable, this work, for any kind of it was indispensable when I went through cancer in 2012, and it was indispensable going through this spinal condition. I cannot imagine people dealing with serious illness or injury without some kind of work like this, because otherwise the mind gets a hold of that injury and illness and just runs with it, and can create a lot of suffering. So absolutely. But I've also had help with medications at times, not liking addictive medications, but looking for certain medications that help me in those states when it's just extremely painful. They'll kind of calm things down so that I can look at them and investigate them and get relief that way too. So I'm not anti-medication. My diet is important. Exercise is important. It's not just inquiry and rest that's helped me, but it's been an indispensable part of that. Next question, Scott. When should I work with a facilitator? Why can't I do this work on my own? I try. I get going on and on. I try, but it doesn't always work, or I get some relief. I need help. Yes, you need help. Everybody needs help. You see, this work, what we call the Kiloby inquiries, was actually designed by myself and Dan McClintock, who's a former client at the Kiloby Center. And Dan is now a certified facilitator, and he's the co-developer of this work. And Dan had difficulty in the beginning witnessing, tier 1 witnessing, and so we developed a lot of the tools, and he and I developed them together, these tier 2 tools to help him go deeper in his experience. And as I watched the breakthroughs happen for him, I became open to use these tools on some post-awakening issues that I've had, like around shame and chronic pain and just little things that I wasn't able to get at before this work was developed. It helped me a lot. So the point that I'm making is that Dan and I facilitated each other for over 2 years, almost every day, using these tools, and they were highly beneficial to me. But I gained benefit by being facilitated by Dan. You see, I learned that sometimes we can look on our own, and sometimes we need help. It's that simple. And this is why I have a facilitator program, because there's these people out there that we've trained and certified who have a high skill level that can help you if you're struggling to use this work on your own. So sometimes it's nice just to go work with a facilitator for a while until you start to learn how to use these tools more on your own in your own experience, and then you can stop working with a facilitator. But I can't emphasize enough how important and how profound it can be to work with somebody like a facilitator that will hold the space for you no matter what's arising and show you how to use these skills. Very, very helpful, and I encourage anybody who's having difficulty with this work on their own to go to killaby.com and just look up. I'm doing sessions sometimes, and sometimes I'm not, but there's plenty of other facilitators on my site that you can work with. Just go and contact them and ask them questions and find the facilitator that works for you. Next question. Scott, you don't seem to be talking about the living inquiries as much anymore, and you're talking about the Killaby inquiries. Can you tell me the difference and which one you like better? It's like apples and oranges. The living inquiries were started over 10 years ago, and the living inquiries community is a robust, community of facilitators that that started when we started. I was part of the co-creator or co-founder of the living inquiries. Now the living inquiries are run by a nonprofit board, and they are still training people and helping people with that first set of inquiries we developed, which were based on unfindability. And if you want to know more about those, there's plenty of information on the net, livinginquiries.com. You'll find information about that inquiry program there. The Killaby inquiries were it's apples and oranges. My work is always constantly evolving. So the living inquiries are a specific set of inquiries. The Killaby inquiries were designed in a different atmosphere at our treatment centers, so they address different things, and it's a different set of tools. And just for me personally, I've gained more benefit from the Killaby inquiries than I did even from the living inquiries. But that doesn't mean that objectively the Killaby inquiries are better. It's just like whatever flavor you like of inquiry, just find that out. The Killaby inquiries are what I do exclusively with people today because they're so simple and they work so well with trauma and shame and some of those deep sort of unconscious aspects of our experience. So I very much am so glad that the living inquiries that organization is out there helping people. It's just that I've sort of moved on to something else. Not that this is better, it's just different and it resonates more with me, and I've just seen a lot of other people really, really resonate with it. So that's the story of that. Next, let's see. Maybe I have time for one more question here. Yeah, this is an email, a kind of email that I get quite often. Scott, I've recognized the non-dual nature of reality, or I've had glimpse experiences of that, and yet I'm drinking every day. How I know that there's no doer here, I know that there's no self, and yet I'm drinking every day. Can you help me? Yeah, I can help you. Is that just because we've had a peak experience or there's some experience of presence in our life does not mean that all habits and behaviors are going to necessarily fall away from that recognition. One has to have a certain skill level to work with things like addiction or alcoholism. There's certain inquiries in the Killaby inquiries that target that behavior. See, so if you're just meditating or just using inquiry in a very light way, you're not going to see much change in those kinds of behaviors. We've developed these Killaby inquiries in a way that targets the pain that drives that behavior of drinking every day. And so I would just take note that, don't judge yourself that you're drinking every day. That's the first thing, if you can find a way not to judge that. And then just be open to listening to what I'm saying here on this video series, to know that there is a way to use this work to allow these addictions to fall away from you, to fall away in your experience. But in that situation, I would definitely encourage you to work with facilitators who are trained to work in that situation, or to come to one of our treatment centers where we can do the work with you. If you're someone who uses some of those higher level intoxicants like alcohol or cocaine or heroin or some of the harder drugs, we're not even probably going to work with you online because there are detox issues involved, medical issues with that. And we don't want to work with someone who's drinking every day when they really need to be in detox first, or they need to be under the care of a physician first. So please contact us. I would ask you to contact us at killabecenter@gmail.com if you are experiencing a compulsive behavior that, every day that you can't stop. Although we'll consider working with you online, chances are we're going to refer you to the Killaby Center, which, by the way, you can do online now. See, you don't have to go to the Killaby Center. You can do it all through telehealth. But by getting involved at the Killaby Center, it's like having a higher level of support, even in the comfort of your home. So you could be doing outpatient with us from home, like 3 hours 3 times a week, or 6 hours 5 times a week, where you're tuning into us through telehealth and we're doing this work with you specifically on your addictions and the things that drive your addictions. So again, reach out to us. There's different ways. We've definitely worked with people who have addictions. We don't say no to everybody who has compulsive behaviors when working with them online. It's certainly a possibility, but we need to assess your situation first before we make any referrals or recommendations around this work. So just contact us, give us your information, and we'll try to lead you in a good direction to get some help with that. And just the last thing I want to say about that is be very careful using non-dual insights as a way to justify behavior. To say that, like this writer said to me, that they've seen the non-dual nature of reality or had glimpses and yet they're still drinking, tells me that the inquiry or the work that they've done hasn't gone very far. And that maybe there's a deeper way into this that you should be open to, instead of just spouting off non-dual phrases as just words, right? Your actual experience and the transformation that you can experience through this work is where the rubber meets the road. That's when you start to see addictions truly fall away. It's not by repeating non-dual phrases or making some statement about that. It's about the transformation that happens through doing the work in a very skillful way. So thank you for giving me these questions. If you have more questions, just send them to me at killabecenter@gmail.com. Please do not write questions in the comments in YouTube, because I'm not going to read all those. Questions are better sent to me directly at killabecenter@gmail.com. Thank you.